Marriage is like Wi-Fi. Great, until someone else logs in with your password. I learned this at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday when my phone buzzed with a message that would change everything. Don't freak out, but I'm sharing a hotel room with my boss tonight. It's totally professional. My name is Porter Kellor, and I've spent 15 years in IT security consulting. I specialize in access control, digital permissions, and making sure the right people get through the right doors at the right times. Ironic, considering I was about to revoke my wife's access to everything that mattered. Avon Kellor, soon to be Avon something else, had just sent me the most expensive text message in history. Not because of data charges, but because of what it was going to cost her. I stared at the screen in my downtown apartment, rain pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. The apartment she'd helped pick out. The apartment where she'd insisted on smart locks, automated everything, and her name on every delivery service from here to the suburbs. Professional. Right. I typed back, "Great. Then you don't need my place anymore." Then I got to work. See, when you're an IT security consultant, you learn that access control isn't just about computers. It's about power, trust, and the digital threads that hold modern life together. Avon was about to discover what happens when those threads get cut. First, the apartment. I pulled up the smart home app and scrolled through her permissions. Digital key access, revoked. Guest privileges, terminated. Automated entry for her biometrics, deleted. The system would still recognize her face, but it would treat her like any other stranger trying to get into my building. Next, deliveries. Avon had a standing order with 3 different services: groceries, meal kits, and that overpriced organic nonsense she insisted on. I rerouted everything to her mother's address across town. Let her explain that conversation. My phone rang. Avon. "Porter, what are you doing? I can't get into the apartment." "I know. This is ridiculous. I told you it was professional. And I told you that you don't need my place anymore. Seems like we're both being honest tonight." "You're being childish." I almost laughed. Childish. The woman who just texted me from another man's hotel room was calling me childish. "I'm being efficient," I said. "You made a choice. I'm making mine." She hung up. I wasn't surprised. But I wasn't done either. I called the hotel, the Meridian downtown, according to the location tag on her text. The number rang twice before a professional voice answered. "Meridian downtown, this is the front desk. I'd like to speak with your general manager, please. It's regarding a corporate booking under the name Sornell." One moment. Wilder Sornell, Avon's boss. 40-something, drives a BMW that costs more than most people's houses, and apparently thinks corporate expense accounts cover more than just conference rooms. "This is Arden Weller, general manager. How can I help you?" "Ms. Weller, my name is Porter Kellor. My wife, Avon Kellor, is currently registered in a room with Wilder Sornell under what I understand is a corporate booking. I'm calling to confirm this is being billed appropriately and to request clarification on your hotel's policy regarding shared accommodations for business purposes." There was a pause. "I see. Let me pull up that reservation." I could hear typing in the background. Professional people understand professional language, and I'd just spoken hers. "Mr. Kellor, I show a single room registered to Mr. Sornell with Ms. Kellor listed as an additional guest. The booking is on a corporate card." "Thank you. I'd like to formally withdraw my consent for any charges, services, or amenities to be associated with my wife's name or our shared address. I'm sending you an email with this request in writing, time-stamped for your records." More typing. "I understand. We'll make a note in the file." I hung up and immediately drafted the email. In IT security, everything gets documented. Every permission change, every access revocation, every modification to the system. This was no different. By the time I hit send, my phone was buzzing again. Avon. Porter, the hotel just called me. What did you do? I protected my interests. You're embarrassing me. You did that yourself. I'm just making sure it's properly documented. This is insane. It's one night. For work. Then it shouldn't be a problem. I could hear voices in the background. Male voices. Specifically, one male voice I recognized from the company parties I'd attended with Avon over the past 2 years. Is that Wilder? I asked. We're just talking about the presentation tomorrow. At 8 o'clock at night, in a hotel room. Porter. Tell him I said hello. And tell him that if this is really professional, he won't mind separate rooms. I hung up before she could respond. The next call came 20 minutes later. Different number. Mr. Kellor, this is Wilder Sornell. I think there's been a misunderstanding. His voice had that practiced smoothness that comes from years of talking people into things they shouldn't agree to. I'd heard it before at company events, watching him work the room like a predator in an expensive suit. No misunderstanding, I said. Pretty clear situation, actually. Look, this is purely business. We have a major presentation tomorrow, and it made sense to coordinate our materials tonight. In a shared hotel room. The company is cutting costs. It's nothing inappropriate. Then you won't mind separate rooms. That's not really your decision to make. And there it was, the mask slipping, the smooth tone replaced by something harder, more entitled. You're right, I said. It's not my decision, but revoking access to my home, my accounts, and my consent for any association with this arrangement, that is my decision, and I've made it. The line went quiet for a moment. You're making this more complicated than it needs to be, Wilder said finally. I'm making it exactly as complicated as it is. Have a professional evening. I hung up and immediately called my sister Sasha. She tended bar at 3 different places downtown and knew more about what happened in this city than the police, the newspapers, and social media combined. Porter? What's wrong? You sound weird. Avon's at the Meridian with her boss. Shared room. Claims it's professional. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. What do you know about Wilder Sornell? I could hear the background noise of her bar, glasses clinking, conversations, the general hum of people making questionable decisions with alcohol. Sornell, yeah, I know that name. Comes in sometimes with different women, always pays cash, always tips big, always acts like he owns the place. Different women? Never the same one twice. Always introduces them as colleagues or business associates. Professional. Right. Very professional. The kind of professional that usually ends with someone crying in the bathroom. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not anger. Anger would have been cleaner. This was calculation. Thanks, Sasha. Porter, what are you going to do? What I do best. Revoke access. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, in a hotel room that was supposedly about business, my wife was making choices that would define the rest of her life. She just didn't know it yet. I opened my laptop and started typing. Divorce papers could be filed online these days, and I had everything I needed: joint accounts, shared assets, documented evidence of abandonment. In IT security, we call it a clean uninstall. Remove all traces, revoke all permissions, restore the system to its original state. By midnight, it was done. The papers were filed, the accounts were frozen, and I'd scheduled a locksmith for first thing in the morning. When Avon came home, if she came home, she'd find that her access had been professionally revoked. I poured myself a drink and sat back down at the window. My phone buzzed with another text from her. Coming home now. We need to talk. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to discuss. The locksmith arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, a grizzled guy named Eddie, who didn't ask questions when I explained I needed the locks changed immediately. Wife trouble? He asked, working on the deadbolt. Ex-wife trouble. Ah, The expensive kind. The most expensive. He finished the job in 40 minutes, handing me 3 new keys and a receipt. Good luck, buddy. I was going to need it. Avon showed up at 8:15, still wearing yesterday's clothes and carrying the leather portfolio she used for important presentations. She looked tired, confused, and more than a little angry when her key didn't work. I watched from the window as she tried the key 3 times, then pulled out her phone. My phone rang. "Porter, my key isn't working." "I know." "What do you mean, you know?" "I mean I had the locks changed an hour ago." The silence stretched long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Then, "You changed the locks?" "Professional security upgrade. This is insane. Let me up." "No." "Porter, I live here." "You lived here." Past tense. I could see her through the window, pacing in front of the building like a caged animal. The doorman, Marcus, was watching her with the careful attention of someone who'd been briefed on the situation. "I'm coming down," she said. "No need. Marcus has something for you." I'd given Marcus an envelope that morning along with a $50 tip and clear instructions. As I watched, he approached Avon and handed her the envelope. Even from 15 floors up, I could see her hands shaking as she opened it. The envelope contained 2 things: a copy of the filed separation papers and a business card for my attorney, Patricia Vance. Patricia specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for being thorough, professional, and absolutely ruthless when the situation called for it. My phone rang again. "You filed for divorce? Without even talking to me?" "We talked. Last night. You chose a hotel room with your boss over our marriage. I chose to end the marriage. Seems fair." "It was work, Porter. Work." "Then you'll have no problem explaining that to Patricia. She's very understanding about professional relationships." Avon was crying now, standing on the sidewalk in front of my building with a legal document in her hands and nowhere to go. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know. Maybe ask Wilder. He seemed very concerned about your accommodations last night." She hung up without another word. I made coffee and settled in to wait. In my experience, the real reaction always came after the initial shock wore off. Avon would regroup, probably call her friends, definitely call her mother, and then she'd come back with a plan. I was right. She returned at noon with reinforcements: her best friend Jennifer and her sister Kelly. The 3 of them stood on the sidewalk looking up at my building like they were planning a siege. My phone buzzed with a group text that included all 3 of them. "We need to talk. This is getting out of hand." I replied to the group, "Already talked to my attorney. Everything else goes through her." Jennifer called me directly. "Porter, this is ridiculous. So what if she spent one night at a hotel? People do that for work all the time. In shared rooms with their bosses? It's not that unusual." "Really? When was the last time you shared a hotel room with your boss?" Silence. "That's what I thought. Tell Avon that her things will be packed and ready for pickup tomorrow. She can coordinate with Patricia for the details." "You're being cruel." "I'm being efficient. There's a difference." I hung up and called my friend Elliot, an ex-cop who now worked private security. If Avon was bringing backup, I wanted someone who could handle whatever came next. "Porter, haven't heard from you in months. What's going on?" I explained the situation. Elliot listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I'd always appreciated about him. "So you want me to babysit while you pack her stuff?" "I want you to observe and document. This could get complicated." "It's already complicated, but yeah, I can do that. What's your read on the boss?" "Entitled. Pushy. The kind of guy who thinks rules don't apply to him." "Those are always fun. I'll be there in an hour." While I waited for Elliot, I did what I do best. I gathered information. Wilder Sornell had a social media presence that painted him as a successful executive who worked hard and played harder. Lots of photos from expensive restaurants, luxury cars, and what he called team-building events that looked more like parties. More interesting were the comments on his posts. Lots of female colleagues praising his mentorship and professional guidance, the kind of comments that could be read two different ways depending on your perspective. I was building a pattern when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Kellor, this is Arden Weller from the Meridian. We spoke last night. Ms. Weller, how can I help you? I wanted to follow up on the situation with Mr. Sornell and your wife. After our conversation, I reviewed our security footage and spoke with our staff. And? There were some irregularities in their behavior that concerned our team. Nothing inappropriate, but not entirely professional either. What kind of irregularities? Extended time in the bar, room service ordered to the room rather than eaten in our restaurant, and a request for late checkout that was insistent. I see. I've opened a compliance review with their company. When corporate bookings raise questions, we have an obligation to report them. Thank you for letting me know. Mr. Kellor, I've been in this business for 20 years. I've seen a lot of situations like this. I'm sorry. After she hung up, I sat back and smiled for the first time in 18 hours. Wilder's professional evening was about to become a corporate compliance issue. In my world, that was what we called a cascading failure. One small problem triggering bigger and bigger problems until the whole system crashed. Elliot arrived at 2 p.m. carrying a duffel bag and wearing the kind of casual clothes that somehow still looked official. So where are we with this? Avon's downstairs with her support group. Wilder's probably dealing with a compliance review at work, and I'm packing her stuff. Sounds like a normal Tuesday. What do you need me to do? Just be here. If this goes sideways, I want a witness who knows how to write a report. We spent the next 2 hours boxing up Avon's belongings, clothes, books, the expensive skincare products she ordered online, the collection of coffee mugs she'd accumulated from various conferences and events. It was strange how someone's entire life could fit into a dozen boxes. At 4 p.m., my phone rang. Wilder, we need to talk. No, we don't. You're causing problems for both of us. Avon's upset, the hotel called my office, and now HR wants to meet with me tomorrow. Sounds like a you problem. It's going to become a you problem if you don't back off. Elliot looked up from the box he was taping. I put the call on speaker. Is that a threat, Wilder? It's a reality check. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I'm making it exactly as big as it is. You and my wife shared a hotel room. I filed for divorce, cause and effect. It was business. Then you'll have no trouble explaining that to HR. The line went quiet for a moment. When Wilder spoke again, his voice had changed. Less smooth executive, more angry man. You don't know who you're messing with. Sure I do. I'm messing with a guy who's about to explain to his bosses why he needed to share a hotel room with a married employee. Good luck with that presentation. I hung up and looked at Elliot. Well, that was interesting, he said. Guys got a temper. Guys like that always do. They're used to getting their way. What's your next move? I looked around the apartment, now mostly cleared of Avon's presence. It felt bigger somehow, cleaner. I'm going to let the system work. HR will ask questions, the hotel will provide answers, and Wilder will have to explain why his professional relationship required shared accommodations. And Avon? Avon made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. My phone buzzed with a text from Sasha. Heard through the grapevine that Sornell's company is asking questions. Word is getting around. I showed the text to Elliot. Your sister's got good sources. She's got the best sources. Bartenders know everything. So what now? Now we wait. In my experience, guys like Wilder don't handle pressure well. He'll make a mistake, and when he does, I'll be ready. As if on cue, my phone rang. Avon. Porter, please. Can we just talk? Face to face? I looked at Elliot, who shrugged. Fine. Lobby. 5 minutes. Thank you. I hung up and headed for the elevator. Time to see what my soon-to-be ex-wife had to say for herself. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The lobby of my building was all glass and steel, designed to impress visitors and intimidate people who didn't belong. Avon was sitting in one of the leather chairs near the entrance, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking like she hadn't slept. She stood when she saw me, and for a moment I remembered why I'd married her. Even exhausted and stressed, Porter Kellor was beautiful, smart, ambitious, and capable of making people believe whatever she wanted them to believe. That last part was the problem. "Thank you for coming down," she said. 5 minutes. "Porter, I know how this looks, but you have to believe me. Nothing happened." "I don't have to believe anything, that's the point. We were working. The presentation this morning was huge, and we needed to coordinate our materials. In a shared hotel room. The company is cutting costs." Wilder said. "I don't care what Wilder said. I care what you chose." She sat back down, and I could see tears starting to form in her eyes. Classic Avon. When logic failed, try emotion. "I chose my career. This presentation could make my career, Porter. The client we were pitching is worth millions." "How did it go?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "The presentation. The one that was so important you had to share a hotel room to prepare for it. How did it go?" Her face went pale. We had to postpone it." "Why?" "HR wanted to meet with Wilder first, about the hotel situation." I almost laughed. "So you destroyed our marriage for a presentation that didn't happen?" "It's not destroyed. We can fix this." "No, we can't. You made a choice, Avon. You chose Wilder. You chose the hotel room. You chose to lie to me about it being professional. Those are your choices. This is mine." I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. "What do you want from me? What can I do to fix this?" "Nothing. There's nothing you can do. There has to be something." I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd shared 5 years of my life with, who'd just thrown it all away for a hotel room with her boss. "You want to know what you can do? Go explain to your mother why your mail is being forwarded to her house. Go explain to your friends why you're sleeping on their couches. Go explain to HR why sharing a room was so professional that your husband filed for divorce. Porter, your stuff is packed. Coordinate with Patricia to pick it up." I walked away, leaving her sitting in the lobby of a building she no longer had access to. Behind me, I could hear her crying, but I didn't turn around. Back upstairs, Elliot was finishing with the last box. "How'd it go?" "She wants to fix things." "And?" "Some things can't be fixed. They can only be replaced." My phone rang. Patricia Vance, my attorney. "Porter, I've reviewed the papers you filed. Clean, simple, well documented. But I want to warn you, the other side is going to push back hard." "What do you mean?" "I got a call an hour ago from Avon's attorney. She's claiming emotional distress, temporary insanity due to work pressure, and she wants to contest the divorce." "On what grounds?" "She's saying the hotel room was purely professional and that you're being unreasonable." "Do we have a problem?" "Not if we can prove otherwise. I need you to document everything, every call, every text, every interaction, and I need to know if there's anything else about this Wilder character." "I'm working on it." "Work faster. These corporate types have expensive lawyers and flexible ethics." After Patricia hung up, I called Sasha. "I need more information about Wilder Sornell." "What kind of information?" "The kind that proves last night wasn't his first professional hotel room." "Give me a few hours. I'll make some calls." While I waited, I did what I do best. I analyzed the digital evidence. Avon's social media had been scrubbed clean, but social media is never really clean. Cached pages, archived posts, deleted comments. It was all still there if you knew where to look. And I knew where to look. 3 hours later, I had a timeline. Avon and Wilder had been working late together for months. Not unusual by itself, but the pattern was interesting. Late dinners that she'd posted about and then deleted, conference trips where they'd stayed at the same hotels, comments on each other's posts that were just a little too friendly, just a little too personal. Individually, none of it meant anything. Together, it painted a picture of a relationship that had been building for a long time. Sasha called at 8 p.m. "Your boy Wilder has been busy. 3 different bartenders remember him with 3 different women over the past 6 months. Always the same story: work colleagues, business dinners, professional relationships. Same pattern? Identical. Expensive dinners, lots of drinks, always pays cash, always tips big, and always ends with the woman looking confused and the man looking satisfied. Professional. Very professional. The kind of professional that usually ends with someone calling their husband from a hotel room. Thanks, Sasha. Porter, be careful. Guys like this don't like being exposed." She was right. Guys like Wilder were used to controlling the narrative, managing the situation, making problems disappear. But they weren't used to dealing with people like me, people who understood that information was power, and that power could be used in very specific ways. I spent the evening building a comprehensive file on Wilder Sornell, social media posts, professional history, financial records that were publicly available, and most importantly, a pattern of behavior that suggested last night wasn't an isolated incident. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Kellor, this is Detective Sarah Martinez with the City Police. I understand you filed a complaint about harassment?" "I didn't file any complaint." "That's strange. We received a report that you've been making threatening phone calls and harassing a Mr. Wilder Sornell and your estranged wife." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "I haven't made any threatening calls." "Do you have any documentation of your interactions with these individuals?" "Everything. Every call, every text, every email, all documented and time-stamped." "Good. I'd like to review that documentation. Can you come in tomorrow morning?" "Of course." After she hung up, I called Patricia. "They're trying to flip the script," she said after I explained the situation. "Classic move. Accuse you of harassment to make you look like the unstable one. Will it work?" "Not if you've documented everything like I told you to. Bring everything to the police station tomorrow, and make sure you're calm, professional, and cooperative." "And then?" "Then we show them what real harassment looks like." I spent the rest of the night organizing my files, printing emails, and preparing for what was obviously going to be a much more complicated situation than I'd anticipated. But complicated was good. Complicated meant Wilder was worried. And worried people made mistakes. I was counting on it. The police station at 8 a.m. was exactly what you'd expect. Fluorescent lights, coffee that could strip paint, and the general atmosphere of people dealing with problems they'd rather not have. Detective Martinez was a compact woman in her 40s with the kind of direct gaze that suggested she'd heard every story at least twice. She led me to a small conference room and gestured to a chair. "So tell me about your interactions with Mr. Sornell and your wife." I handed her a folder containing printed copies of every text, email, and phone log from the past 48 hours. "Everything's documented. Times, dates, duration of calls, content of messages." She flipped through the papers, occasionally making notes. After 10 minutes, she looked up. "This is very thorough. I work in IT security. Documentation is what I do." "Mr. Sornell claims you've been threatening him and harassing your wife. Based on what evidence?" "That's what I'm trying to determine. According to his statement, you've made multiple threatening phone calls and have been stalking them." I pulled out my phone and opened the call log. Every call I've made is documented here. 3 calls to Wilder Sornell, total duration 11 minutes. Content was discussion of the hotel situation and my request for separate rooms. No threats made. "And your wife?" 6 calls, total duration 23 minutes. Content was discussion of the separation and logistics of moving her belongings. Again, no threats. Detective Martinez compared my phone logs to the papers in the folder. These match. They should. I don't lie to police officers. What about in-person contact? None with Wilder. One conversation with my wife in the lobby of my building, witnessed by building security, and my friend, Elliot Chen. Elliot Chen? I gave her Elliot's contact information. She made a note. Mr. Kellor, I have to ask, are you planning any further contact with Mr. Sornell or your wife? All communication with my wife goes through my attorney now. As for Wilder, I have no reason to contact him unless he contacts me first. She closed the folder. Based on this documentation, I don't see evidence of harassment or threatening behavior. However, I want to be clear. If this situation escalates, if there are any direct confrontations or attempts at contact, you need to call us immediately. Understood. One more thing. Mr. Sornell mentioned that you work in cybersecurity. He's concerned about his digital privacy. I almost smiled. Detective, my job is protecting digital privacy, not violating it. Everything I've accessed has been either publicly available or directly related to my own accounts and property. Good. Keep it that way. I left the police station feeling better than I had in days. Wilder's attempt to paint me as the aggressor had backfired spectacularly. Not only had I documented everything perfectly, but his complaint had created an official record of his own behavior. My phone rang as I was walking to my car. Patricia. How did it go? Better than expected. They found no evidence of harassment because there wasn't any. But Wilder filing a false complaint just gave us more ammunition. Excellent. I've got news too. I spoke with Avon's attorney this morning. They want to negotiate. What kind of negotiation? They're willing to accept the divorce if you agree to a more favorable asset split and a non-disclosure agreement. They want me to stay quiet about the hotel room. That's my read, which tells me there's more to this story than just one night. She was right. People don't pay for silence unless they have something to hide. What do you recommend? Let them make an offer. In the meantime, keep gathering information. The more we know, the better our position. After hanging up with Patricia, I called Elliot. Feel like doing some surveillance work? Legal surveillance? Completely legal. I want to know more about Wilder's patterns, his habits, where he goes when he's not at work. You think there's more to this? I think a guy who files false police reports and offers hush money is a guy with secrets. I'm in. What's the plan? We met at a coffee shop near Wilder's office building. Elliot had brought a camera with a telephoto lens and the kind of casual clothes that made him invisible in a crowd. Standard surveillance rules, he said. We observe and document. No contact, no confrontation, no breaking any laws. Understood. We didn't have to wait long. Wilder emerged from his building at noon, wearing an expensive suit and the kind of confident expression that suggested his morning had gone well. He walked 3 blocks to an upscale restaurant called Meridian. Not the hotel, just an unfortunate coincidence in names. Lunch meeting? Elliot asked. Let's find out. We positioned ourselves across the street with a clear view of the restaurant's entrance. Wilder was meeting someone, a woman in her 30s, well-dressed, professional. They sat at a table by the window, and their body language was immediately familiar. Same pattern, I said. What do you mean? The way he's sitting, the way she's leaning in, the way he's paying attention. It's the same pattern Avon described from their business dinners. Elliot took photos through the restaurant window. Professional lunch meeting? Very professional. We watched for 45 minutes. The conversation was animated, lots of gestures, lots of smiling. Wilder picked up the check, they shook hands, and then something interesting happened. He kissed her cheek. Nothing dramatic, just a brief, friendly kiss. But his hand lingered on her arm, and she looked uncomfortable for just a moment. Did you get that? Got it, Elliot said, checking his camera. Clear shot of the whole interaction. The woman left first, walking quickly and checking her phone. Wilder stayed for another 10 minutes, making phone calls and looking very satisfied with himself. "What now?" Elliot asked. "Now we see where he goes next." Wilder's next stop was interesting, a high-end electronics store that specialized in surveillance equipment. He spent 30 minutes inside and came out carrying a small bag. "That's not good," Elliot said. "No, it's not." We followed him back to his office building, where he disappeared into the parking garage. Case closed for the day, but we'd learned enough. "Guy's definitely got a pattern," Elliot said as we walked back to our cars, "and he's paranoid about being watched." "Paranoid people make mistakes." "What's your next move?" "I'm going to find out who that woman was." That evening, I analyzed the photos Elliot had taken. The woman was clearly a professional, expensive clothes, confident bearing, the kind of person who belonged in business meetings. But there was something about her reaction to Wilder that bothered me. I ran the photos through reverse image searches, checked social media, and cross-referenced them with Wilder's company directory. It took 3 hours, but I found her. Amanda Foster, senior account manager at a marketing firm that did business with Wilder's company. Married, 2 kids, clean social media presence, and according to her LinkedIn profile, she'd been working on a major project with Wilder's team for the past 6 months. The same 6 months that Wilder had been having professional dinners with various women. I was building a comprehensive picture of a man who used his position and corporate expense accounts to blur the lines between business and personal relationships. The hotel room with Avon wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern. My phone rang. "Sasha. I've got more information about your boy Wilder." "I'm listening." "Talked to a friend who works at the Meridian Hotel. Wilder's been a regular for months, always with different women, always claiming it's business." "How regular?" "Monthly, sometimes more, always the same routine. Dinner in the restaurant, drinks in the bar, then up to a shared room. And here's the interesting part. He always requests the same room." "Which room?" "Suite 1247. Corner room, extra privacy, soundproofed for business meetings." "Soundproofed. Very professional." I thanked Sasha and immediately called the hotel. Arden Weller was still on duty. "Ms. Weller, this is Porter Kellor. We spoke about the situation with my wife and Mr. Sornell." "Yes, Mr. Kellor. How can I help you?" "I'm wondering if you could tell me about Mr. Sornell's history with your hotel. Has he been a regular guest?" There was a pause. "Mr. Kellor, I probably shouldn't discuss other guests' information." "I understand, but given that there's now a compliance review and potential legal issues, I thought you might want to be thorough in your documentation." Another pause. "I see your point. Let me pull up his guest history." I could hear typing in the background. "Mr. Sornell has been a guest here 17 times in the past 8 months. Always the same room, always with different female colleagues, always billed to corporate accounts." 17 times. "Yes. And Mr. Kellor?" "After our conversation yesterday, I reviewed some of the other bookings. There have been several complaints." "What kind of complaints?" "Noise complaints from other guests, inappropriate behavior in the restaurant and bar, and 2 formal complaints from female colleagues about unprofessional conduct." "Have these been reported to his company?" "They will be now. The compliance review has opened up a lot of questions." After I hung up, I sat back and smiled. Wilder wasn't just a guy who'd made one mistake with my wife. He was a serial predator who'd been using his position and company resources to manipulate female colleagues for months, and now I had the documentation to prove it. The next morning brought unexpected news. Patricia called at 7 a.m. with an update that changed everything. "Wilder's company fired him yesterday." "Fired him?" "The compliance review found evidence of misuse of corporate funds, inappropriate conduct with multiple female employees, and violation of company harassment policies. They terminated him immediately." "What about Avon?" "Suspended pending investigation. Her involvement with Wilder has called her judgment into question." I felt a mixture of satisfaction and something that might have been pity. Avon had thrown away our marriage for a man who'd just cost her career. "There's more," Patricia continued. "Wilder's attorney called me this morning. He wants to meet." "About what?" "He wouldn't say, but he was very insistent that it needed to happen today." "Set it up." 2 hours later, I was sitting in Patricia's conference room across from Wilder Sornell and his attorney, a nervous-looking man named David Park, who kept checking his phone. Wilder looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his usually perfect hair was disheveled, and there was something desperate in his eyes. "Mr. Kellor," his attorney began, "my client would like to discuss a resolution to this situation." "What situation?" Patricia asked. "Mr. Kellor filed for divorce from his wife. That has nothing to do with your client." "It has everything to do with my client," Wilder said, speaking for the first time. "Your client has been systematically destroying my life." "My client documented your behavior and reported it to appropriate authorities," Patricia replied. "If that destroyed your life, perhaps you should examine your behavior." "I want him to stop." "Stop what?" I asked. "Stop investigating me. Stop calling the hotel. Stop talking to people about me." "I haven't done anything illegal." "You've ruined my career." "You ruined your career. I just documented it." Wilder's attorney cleared his throat. "Mr. Kellor, my client is prepared to offer a substantial settlement if you agree to cease all investigation and sign a non-disclosure agreement." "How substantial?" $200,000. Patricia and I exchanged glances. People don't offer that kind of money unless they're hiding something much worse. "What exactly would I be agreeing not to disclose?" I asked. "Any information about my client's business relationships or personal conduct?" "No," I said. "The offer is negotiable." "The answer isn't." Wilder slammed his hand on the table. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. Enlighten me. I have connections. I have resources. I can make your life very difficult." "Mr. Sornell," Patricia said calmly, "are you threatening my client?" "I'm explaining reality. The reality is that you're unemployed and under investigation for harassment. My client is a respected professional with a clean record and excellent documentation. Who do you think has more credibility?" The meeting ended with Wilder storming out and his attorney apologizing profusely. But as they left, Wilder turned back to me. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I replied. "You just don't know it yet." That afternoon, I decided to take a more direct approach. I called Amanda Foster, the woman Wilder had been meeting with at the restaurant. "Miss Foster, this is Porter Kellor. I'm investigating some business practices involving Wilder Sornell, and I believe you might have relevant information." I don't think I should talk about business relationships." "Ms. Foster, Wilder was fired yesterday for inappropriate conduct with female colleagues. If he's done anything that made you uncomfortable, now would be a good time to document it." There was a long pause. "Can we meet in person?" We met at a coffee shop downtown. Amanda Foster looked tired and stressed, the kind of expression that comes from carrying a secret that's too heavy. "Wilder has been pressuring me for months," she said without preamble. "It started as normal business meetings, but then he began suggesting dinners, drinks, weekend conferences that didn't really exist." "Did you report it?" "To who? He's a major client. My company does millions of dollars in business with his firm." "What about the lunch meeting yesterday?" She looked surprised. "How do you know about that?" "I was investigating his patterns. What did he want?" "He wanted me to lie for him, to say that all our meetings were purely professional, that he never crossed any lines." "And?" "And I told him I couldn't do that, because it wouldn't be true." "Would you be willing to document that conversation? If it helps stop him from doing this to other women?" "Yes." Amanda's statement was detailed, specific, and damning. Wilder had been using his position to manipulate female colleagues for months, using company resources and business relationships to create situations where women felt pressured to comply with his advances. Armed with this new information, Patricia filed a formal complaint with the State Business Licensing Board and forwarded copies to the attorneys representing the other women who'd been affected by Wilder's behavior. But Wilder wasn't done fighting. That evening, I was leaving my office building when I noticed him waiting by my car. He'd clearly been drinking, and there was something wild in his eyes. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't. You've destroyed everything. My job, my reputation, my future. You did that yourself. I want you to fix it. I can't fix what you broke." He stepped closer, and I could smell alcohol on his breath. "You're going to call everyone you talk to and tell them you made a mistake." "I'm going to call security." I pulled out my phone, but Wilder grabbed my wrist. "I'm not finished talking." "Yes, you are." I twisted away from his grip and stepped back. Wilder followed, stumbling slightly. "You think you're so smart, with your documentation and your lawyers and your investigation. But you don't know everything." "I know enough." "You don't know about the others." "What others?" "The women who didn't complain. The ones who understood how business works." "You mean the ones you successfully intimidated?" "I mean the ones who were smart enough to play the game." "Like Avon?" His face went dark. Avon was different. How was she different? She wanted it. She initiated it. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. "What are you talking about?" "The hotel room wasn't my idea, it was hers. She's been planning this for months." "Planning what?" "The divorce. She wanted out of your marriage, but she needed a reason that would get her a better settlement. So she seduced me, got me to invite her to the hotel, and then made sure you found out about it." "You're lying." "Am I?" "Ask her. Ask her about the text messages she sent me before that night. Ask her about the plan to make you look like the jealous, controlling husband." He was lying. He had to be lying. But something in his voice, something desperate and angry and truthful, made me doubt. "She played both of us," Wilder continued. "She got you to file for divorce so she could claim emotional distress and get a bigger settlement. And she got me to be the fall guy so she could play the victim. Even if that were true, it doesn't excuse your behavior with the other women." "No, it doesn't. But it should tell you something about the woman you married." Wilder walked away, leaving me standing in the parking garage with questions I didn't want to ask and answers I didn't want to hear. But I was going to ask them anyway. I called Patricia as soon as I got home. "I need you to look into something. I need to know if Avon has been planning this divorce longer than we thought." "What makes you think that?" I told her about my conversation with Wilder. Patricia listened without interrupting. "It's possible," she said finally. "The timing of everything has been very convenient for her, and her attorney was remarkably well prepared for someone who'd just been surprised by divorce papers. Can you find out?" "I can try. But Porter, even if it's true, it doesn't change the legal situation. She still committed adultery, she still destroyed the marriage, and she still has to face the consequences." "I know. But I need to know the truth." "I'll look into it." The truth, when it came, was worse than I'd imagined. Patricia called me the next morning with information that reframed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Avon consulted with a divorce attorney 6 months ago. She's been planning this for half a year. 6 months? The attorney she consulted specializes in high-asset divorces where the wife claims emotional distress and infidelity. The strategy is always the same. Create a situation where the husband looks controlling and unreasonable, then claim abuse and demand a larger settlement. And Wilder? Was probably just a convenient target. Someone with a reputation for inappropriate behavior who could be manipulated into compromising himself. I sat down heavily. Everything I'd thought about the past week was wrong. Avon hadn't made a mistake. She'd executed a plan. Wilder hadn't seduced my wife. My wife had seduced him. What does this mean for the divorce? It means we have evidence of premeditation and fraud. It means Avon's claim of emotional distress is worthless. and it means she's going to get exactly what she deserves. Which is? Nothing. That afternoon, I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I called Avon. Porter, I've been hoping you'd call. I know about the plan, Avon. Silence. I know you've been planning this divorce for 6 months. I know you seduced Wilder specifically to create grounds for the divorce. I know you consulted with an attorney who specializes in fraud cases. More silence. I know everything. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, colder, more calculating. Prove it. I don't have to prove it. Patricia already has all the documentation. You can't prove intent. I can prove consultation with a divorce attorney 6 months before you filed. I can prove a pattern of behavior designed to manipulate both me and Wilder. I can prove fraud. What do you want? I want you to withdraw your claim for emotional distress. I want you to accept a clean divorce with no alimony and a 50-50 split of assets. And I want you to disappear from my life. And if I don't, then I file fraud charges, and you explain to a judge why you spent 6 months planning to destroy your marriage for financial gain. She hung up without another word. 2 hours later, Patricia called. Avon's attorney just called. She's accepting our terms. All of them? All of them. Clean divorce, no alimony, 50-50 split, and a mutual non-disclosure agreement. It's over? It's over. I hung up and looked around my apartment. It felt different now. Cleaner, quieter, more like home. Outside the windows, the city sparkled in the afternoon sun, full of possibilities I hadn't considered in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Sasha. Heard the news? Drinks tonight? I typed back, absolutely. For the first time in a week, I smiled. Some doors close so that others can open. Some access gets revoked so that new permissions can be granted. And sometimes, the best security system is the one that keeps the wrong people out. Professional access revoked. Permanently.